Hey guys, and welcome to another First Impressions video, the video game series in which we look at a soon-to-be released game, and I give you my first thoughts and impressions on it. Today we're looking at Farming Prologue, which is being published by Playway. It is a survival simulation where you are trying to start a colony or make it habitable for a future colony to survive on the moon. It is a very visually stunning game, but the prologue so far is not without issues. As always, we will look through the settings first, and I'll take you right into the gameplay to give you my first thoughts and impressions on the game. So let's jump straight into it. Alright then, settings wise, we have a fair few options to go through here. Game, you've got item tooltips and heads up display. You can turn both of those off if you so desire. I personally wouldn't, because it's very, very finicky over what you can and can't do and how you've got to do it. So having those tooltips and the heads up display on can be really, really useful. Video, you have your resolution, borderless, VSync on or off, your FPS unlimited or not, and then all of your sort of graphical effects. It would be nice if anti-aliasing was, 4, 8 or 16 as opposed to epic, and it is one of these where you can cycle all the way through. It would be nice if they changed that and made it so that the highest setting was the last one you could go on. It saves a lot of time, especially with some settings not always being on the highest. I will say that so far as well, the game is not that well optimized. Some of the cinematics are a bit laggy, and it's got almost like a motion blur effect on, but not, if that makes sense. It's a bit weird and a little bit disorienting, although what I will say is the game is very, very pretty when you look at the scenery of the moon and everything else, considering how almost barren it is. Audio settings, there's actually quite a lot here. There's more than I expected. There is voice acting in the game. The voice acting isn't incredible, neither is the text. There's almost like a language barrier, I would say. It's not the best, but again, this is just a prologue and there is plenty susceptible to change, so hopefully they have a look at that and sort it out a little bit better. But you've got your full master, you've got effects, you've got ambient, you've got music, and you've got dialogue. I will say that the soundtrack in this game is very, very pretty. It's very calming and relaxing and goes well with the theme. And then your controls are completely rebindable as well, which is nice. Another note about the settings, or the controls in particular, is that it's a little bit finicky with what it wants you to do. It doesn't make it clear how to cancel what you're doing, but I will show you that in the game. But again, everything's rebindable, which is really, really nice. Let's jump into the game and see what it's all about. Alright then, here we are in the game. Now, because this is just a prologue, it would appear like most of the prologues that you can't really save and load into where you got to, because the game isn't actually that long. So we are starting from the very beginning. This will give you a good idea of how the tutorial works. It is a lot of text and a lot of voiceover. You can skip through it by clicking on the mouse, but you can't like fast skip or anything outside of the cinematics. It is very particular with what you do and how you do it. In other words, it won't let you get in the rover unless you are right next to the door. And that is a theme that goes across. Like, it's very pedantic about where it wants you to be stood in order for it to work. And it's a little bit off-putting. They could maybe get rid of that and just make it as long as you're in the general vicinity, just to make it a bit easier on the user base. As you can see, it's very, very pretty. They've got the sun right. They've got the, static picture of the earth in the background. There's not a lot to it, but what they've done is they've got the lighting right. They've got the whole, like, graphical thing going on, the eerie sort of substance of the moon. And then they've got, like, little assets like rocks and stuff and boulders. And honestly, the rover looks pretty damn good as well. The other thing about this game is it does tend to give you some little tips and bits of information about the moon and the moon landing and what they're maybe planning on doing and stuff like that throughout the game. And if that continues all the way through, especially on full release, I will be very, very for that. I love science. I love things that give a learning curve to random stuff that you might not have already known. or at least expands your knowledge on something that you know a little bit about. And if they do that in the way that they are doing it in this game, I am all for it. There are some cheesy jokes in here as well, just thrown in with a sprinkle. They're not great, but I like the fact that they're at least attempting at humour. That's always welcome, especially when you're doing a tutorial, which can be quite tedious. Now, on the note of the tutorial being quite tedious, you will notice when we finally get to the rover that it wants you to go inside and outside of the actual base a lot, which makes no sense when you consider the fact that the commander or the bot can literally talk to you wherever, and yet it's making you go back inside of the rover base in order to talk to you. And it says that, you know, the signal's stronger, but honestly it doesn't make a difference. There's no point. It's just elongating the tutorial for no apparent reason, and it would be nice if they didn't do that. Especially if it is a case of, you know, you've got to go and get the other thing from the supply crate or whatever, but it doesn't. It just gives you the item because you've talked and gone through the next part. And that makes the tutorial somewhat dull and feel like it's going on a bit. Also, when it comes to some of the text in the game as well, the language used could probably be improved a little bit. When it's going through and introducing you as the farmer and that you're going to be doing this and that, it uses words like tedious and grindy to get the resources you need. And when you're first playing the game, those are really not buzzwords. They're not words you want to be hearing. You don't want to hear that you're going to be doing lots of boring stuff. You need to make the boring stuff exciting. And the way you do that is not by describing it as being boring and tedious. But hey, that's just me. Another thing with the tutorial is it doesn't always explain everything as well as it probably could. When I was playing this earlier with the when building some of the items, I missed or didn't see that it actually said that you've got to build the solar panel outside. Now, building is okay, but again, it feels like it's one too many clicks. You've got to press tab to get into your inventory, then you've got to right click and then hit place. Now, it doesn't allow you to place it straight away, but it puts it here so you can see it. If you want to cancel that, because it doesn't allow you to cancel it when you're outside and when you're in this, you've got to press tab again and then hit place again to remove it. It'd be nice if they added a quick remove or a quick use or something like that outside of maybe putting it into your options or action bar there to get rid of it. But again, putting it there is still one too many clicks. Maybe if they made it for the tutorial purposes, go into that action bar at the top straight away just to make it a little bit easier on the user, wouldn't be the worst idea. Also, when placing, you only seem to have R, in other words, to rotate it. This takes far too long and is not an enjoyable process, and you can only go clockwise. If they added it where Q, so you could rotate it left and right, or clockwise and anti-clockwise, in my opinion, that would be a lot better. But as you can see, we've placed it. We've now got to go back into the rover or the base in order to get the next part done. And obviously that means that you've got to close the door. You've got to do the airlock. You've then got to go and talk to the commander, go through all of the text. And again, there is a lot of it. And then go through that process again. It's very long-winded, and it could do with just trimming down to make it so we don't have to keep going back inside of the base for this until it's actually needed for the things that you've got to build inside. However, if you can get over that and if you can get through the tutorial, the game itself looks very, very in-depth. You have a lot of things that you've got to do. You've got to extract water, then you've got to clean the water, then you've got to, you know, you've got to get some food, you've got to keep your oxygen supplies up, you've got to maintain everything. It's a lot of micromanaging, but it's micromanaging that's been done fairly well. This game has a ton of potential, and I'm very, very excited for when it's fully released. I just hope that they can get some of these little qualms sort of sorted out and fixed, because I can see a lot of people just going, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. This is long-winded and boring. and the game's already told me that it's going to be long-winded and boring, I'm going to switch it off and do something else instead. A little streamlining of the placing of items as well, adding an anti-clockwise as well as just a clockwise rotation. And honestly, you're on to a winner. I really like the premise of this game. I like survivals and city builders in general anyway. Maybe a grid would be cool with the placement, so you can try and get it so you get it exactly how you want it and where you want it to go. But yeah, I am very, very, very happy with this game. I like it a lot. There's certainly things that can be improved, certainly things that can be streamlined and made better, but overall, very excited to play this on full release. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.